everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with another Spellbinders video. They had reached out to me and asked if I would play with their Cut and Emboss Folders. These are awesome. These are great to play with, and these are great quick cards, but with a beautiful, beautiful level of elegance, and you really can do so much with these. So of course I said yes. So these are the three products that they sent me. One's called Blooming Sprigs, the other's Flower Garden, and the other's Botanical Frame. So let's get started with the first one. And the first one, I'm going to use the Blooming Sprigs. Now, of course, you all knew that I had to pull out my Distress Oxides because you know I love them. So I also pulled out my Finger Daubers. And the two colors that I'm using are Peacock Feathers and Cracked I can never say this word. Pistachio. There we go. I have to say it slowly. So we're just going to call that green going forward. I'm then now putting, once I have that down, and it's almost like in the shape of what the emboss design is on the folder. And now I'm just going to fill in a little bit with my peacock feathers just to add a little bit of shading around it. Now, of course, we're not going to leave it like this, although it would be interesting now, wouldn't it? I just grabbed one of my towels and I'm just going to soak this with water and let those colors blend the way that they want to blend. I actually let this dry naturally, and once it was damp, I didn't want it to be completely dry. Because if you see my previous videos, I do like to mist my papers, no matter if they're thin to thick. I just like to mist them a little bit going through an embossing folder so that they won't crack. You can see I'm using my Spellbinders tool-in-one, which is a great tool just to pop out the little sections that do have a die. And remember, the die is built into the embossing folder. So you're embossing and die cutting in one pass, which is awesome. Once I have that panel cut, now this panel is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm using my Vintage Photo ink, and I'm just very lightly going over the raised areas. Not completely, but I just wanted to pull them up just a little bit more to let them stand out. And again, previous videos, I love my Vintage Photo ink. Absolutely love it. I pulled a scrap piece of cardstock from my stash just to put in behind those die cut areas just to make them stand out a little bit more. Now this is actually a little darker than the peacock feathers. So it's just a hint of color. You could use black, you could use white, whatever you choose. I'm then going to take this panel and I'm going to use my tape runner and I'm going to adhere it down right onto my 4 1/4, 5 1/2 top folding card. Now, just so you know too, and I'm going to have another video on this, the machine that I'm using is a Spellbinders Platinum 6. Just got it recently. It is a wonderful machine. I showed you one of the cutting plates. That's what I was showing you there. So I'm not going to go too much into the machine, but as I'm playing around with it, I will say it's making me very happy. Yes. But more in another video on that. I used one of my small sentiments from my stash, and it just simply says, "Hello there." You're going to see with the majority, the two of the sentiments I used, they're small because I really want the embossing folder and the die cuts to shine through. To me, they're my focal point when it comes to my cards. So that's our first card. Now, I am going to add some embellishment drops. These are the Morning Dew Drops by Nuvo, and I'm just putting those in the center of the flowers. So the 3 small ones with the die cut and then the large one in the center. Now what's great with those dots, they're actually going to pick up the ink. So if you use clear, they're actually going to pick up the shades of blue. So now that's our first one. So for our second one, I'm going to use the Flower Garden. embossing folder with the die cuts, with the dies cut in, or excuse me, the dies built in. And I pulled a piece of vellum. Now, this is not a heavyweight vellum. This is just the everyday vellum. And what's great with their machine, you just need the platinum and one cutting plate. And the embossing folder fits between those two. And you can see, now I did not spray my vellum because I didn't know what it was going to do, to be real honest with you. But it didn't crack. But you can see, I really like the look of that, where it looks white because you've cut into it. You've broken those fibers. I grabbed a piece of gray cardstock, cut it 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And now I'm going to grab my liquid glue, and where the dots are, I'm going to put a dot of glue. That's how I'm going to adhere this panel down. Now, don't worry, we're going to cover all of those dots that I'm putting there because I love sequins. I do love sequins. And I'm just going to set them right on top of that. So once this is down on my scrap piece of cardstock, I am going to take an acrylic block and just put a little bit of weight on that. And I'm going to wait until that dries. So I really don't touch it for some time, just to make sure that it is set. The glue that I used is fast setting, but I just wanted to make sure. I'm prepping my cardstock with my anti-static tool. And again, another small sentiment. Now this one's really tiny, but I like it. Again, I think the focal point is the embossed vellum that I have there. And this sentiment just simply says, thanks. There's not much editing in these videos, to be very honest. And these cards were very quick. But I think there's so much you can do with them, whether it's adding a different colored cardstock to the back, whether it's watercoloring your paper, whether it's watercoloring after you've embossed it. Same thing with Distress Oxides. There's just, I think the designs are, there's no limit to what you can do, even though it's an embossing folders. Sometimes I think, we forget about the embossing folder and what it can do and how it can accent our cards. Once I have everything heat embossed, I'm going to use my tape runner. And again, I'm going to put that straight down on my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top folding card base. And I'm just going to trim off the edge. Yeah, I went off to the side when I placed it down. That's okay. We just trim. I pulled out some sequins from my stash. These are by Nuvo. And I'm going to now put another dot of glue where I put the dot of glue on the other side. Some may think, oh, way too many sequins. I love the look of sequins. And these are just a little bit bigger. And they've got like a purple grayish tint to them. So I think they really added a subtle pop of color. Iridescent sequins would be beautiful with this. Black would be sharp with these. So again, whatever you would want to create to add your embellishments to your card. But I think it shines and it glimmers, and I just love the pattern on that vellum. So that was the first time I tried that. So that was really fun. So for the last one, I'm going to use the botanical frame. I grabbed my tattered rose and my worn lipstick, of course, oxides. And I am using Bristol paper. Now, I did use Bristol paper on the first card as well. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my mini blenders this time, and I'm going to start out with the worn lipstick. And I'm putting some heavy coats on the outer edge of this card base. Now, this will get cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I did not want to lose any of the design from the embossing folders. So these are actually covering the front of the entire card base. Once I have my worn lipstick around the outside, I'm now going to go into the inside with my tattered rose. You can see I'm really getting into it, and I'm really sped this section up. I didn't want you to not see this part, but they do blend beautifully, these oxides, because of the pigment and the dye mixture. And it doesn't take much to have that blend. Once I had that done, I real quick spritzed it with my distress sprayer and real quick put down a paper towel to grab that moisture up. And with that little bit of moisture that I added from my distress sprayer, I only dried it a little bit because I didn't want the ink to get all over my folder. So it was still damp when I'm running it through my embossing folder. Now you can see the 4 areas of the dies that are already embedded into the embossing folder, and you can see the really cute flowers that it does cut out. Once that was done, I pulled out my stamp positioner. Now, this little trick, you see that blue piece in my stamp positioner? I got this tip from BB Cameron, and she used it's a piece of fun foam. And let me tell you what, I love my Tim Holtz stamping platform. I know, we're not going to talk about it. I'm in love with them. And when I saw her use that, and when I tried it, my stamping, and I no longer do stamping CPR. I use a light touch now, and I get a perfect impression. So I did stamp that a couple times with my Versamark ink. I'm using my white embossing powder to cover that, because again, I wanted this all subtle. Again, to me, the embossing folder design is my focal point. Not that I don't want people to see the sentiment that I put there, but I wanted their eyes to look at the design going around it. So the sentiment I chose is a special friend like you is a gift. I'm using some of my tape runner because I grabbed some ribbon from my stash, my organza ribbon, and this is actually a pale gray. I think they call it silver. To me, it's pale gray. To me, it's not too silvery. And I'm just going to put that across the top because I do already have a bow made that I'll be adding to the top of that in a moment. But I also have a piece of cardstock from my stash again, and it's a pink, but it's got like a hint of brown to it, but it's very faint. Again, I didn't want that to really shine through. I wanted those flowers to be faint, but you can see it's just enough that it's going to come through those die cuts. I'm going to use my very large roll of double-sided tape to adhere this down onto my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base, and I'm just going to trim up the bottom just to make it even. And you can see I used a green base, so you get that little pop of color when you open the card. I used my tool-in-one to pull a glue dot and just to form it into a little bit of a ball and wrap it around so that I could pinch the center of that ribbon. So yeah, I cheated. It looks like I tied it. Nope. 2 separate pieces. I'm going to dig into my stash again because it's quite a stash, and I'm going to choose my, I believe these are bubblegum Nouveau drops, and I'm just going to put those right in the center of each of the flowers, and I'm going to add 3 very small ones right above the word friend in my sentiment, just to give it a little bit more accent coming off of that. And that is our 3rd card. I do hope you enjoyed these. I hope you'll give these a try. Again, if you're looking for those quick, elegant cards, these are perfect. Whether it's a birthday, whether it's a wedding, an anniversary, any type of celebration, or if you do need that, just a pick-me-up for a friend or a sympathy, I think these are perfect. All the products will be linked down below that I did show here. Please, I also encourage you, go on to the Spellbinders blog hop. That's going to be linked below too. They're doing a giveaway, so make sure you get over there, and I wish you luck if you do enter in that giveaway. And also, go to my blog as well, and there's going to be other links in my blog post as well for other designers that are going to show these products also. So let's see what they create. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I do hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to do that. That's really important. Would love to have you part of my little crafty community here. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I do try to answer each and every comment and question that is there. I hope everyone's having a great week and a wonderful day. But always remember what I think is most important. Always be creative.